One of the biggest splashes in college basketball was Ian Jackson committing to St. John's as he transferred from North Carolina. Perhaps a similar sized cannonball was Coach Pitino saying, "We have big shoes to fill at point. Kadari and Davon were awesome. The ball is now in the hands of our next great point," referring to Jackson. Bob, what will be the biggest challenge for Ian Jackson in his conversion to a point guard as he's mainly played off the ball and a two guard in high school and at UNC? How do you go about teaching someone how to play such a vital role in practice? Is this perhaps a assignment for assistant coach Talik Brown as well, who was such a great point guard at UConn?
I think the challenge for all of our guys with hopefully the level of talent that we've been able to bring in and was certainly the case this year is sacrifice, right? Is making each other better. Not everybody's going to play the minutes they want. Not everybody's going to get as many shots as they want. Not any everybody's going to score as many points as they want. There's a level of sacrifice that we have to be committed to the team to be really good. I don't know how much, quite honestly, I can specifically address Ian Jackson. I've never coached him. Obviously, I've watched him play. I saw him in high school, watched him on film. He's very talented. So I don't know that it would be very intelligent for me to sit here and say, well, here are the specific challenges that he's going to face. I will say overall, when you have a bunch of guys who are used to having the ball in their hands and making plays and being maybe the guy or one of the guys, like a lot of these guys have been, getting them to connect and really just make the right play, right? Just and not specifically with Ian, but Bryce Hopkins, Zuby, these are guys who are both first team all league in the Big East in the past. When the double team comes, get rid of the ball. When the gap closes, spray it. And I think that'll be a challenge for all of our guards. I think it'll be a challenge for Ian. It'll be a challenge for Dylan Darling, who averaged 20 points a game last year. Just the cohesiveness on offense, sharing the basketball, being unselfish. I thought Aaron Scott was really good for us last year because I used to say, Aaron, one of the best things you do is you just hang out on the other side of the floor outside the 3-point line and wait for the ball. He's not coming, we're not crowding the ball. And so we need guys to do that. And I think Ian is extremely talented. He's going to play a big role for us. He's certainly going to have the ball in his hands. But that challenge for him is the same challenge it is for everybody else, is understanding when to make a play for yourself and when to get the ball to your teammates.
I think it's interesting you say that because Danis Jenkins, I think, echoed those exact words in how he had to learn the position, was learning when it was his time to go and try to get a bucket. And when he kind of figured out that balance of facilitating versus scoring or making a play. That's interesting. And that's really where the basis of my question is, because Ian is known as the guy who makes the play. He's the guy since high school, probably since AAU ball when he was a little kid, that was always able to make that play. But now he's going to be relied upon to make everything connect and everything go. And I'm just curious from the coaching perspective, how difficult it is necessarily, forget about Ian, let's not put a name on it, but to teach that position, how, and, we talk about the quarterback being such a vital piece in
Mm.
football, shortstop in baseball, that center position that has the ball in their hands. How difficult is it from your coaching, perspective? I mean, Bob, you've been everywhere for a long time. I mean, to teach that position, to teach the mentality of a point guard.
That's a great question. My experience is that most great coaches that I've been around or I've learned about are really, really hard on their point guards, right? Like that's kind of the extension of you out on the floor. So for any guard who's going to have the ball in their hands a lot, understanding the head coach and what his non-negotiables are, so to speak. Like some head coaches are, hey, maybe there's a few more turnovers, but you're going to thread the needle on that, cross court pass, and we're going to get a layup. Others are going to say, hey, take care of that basketball. That's like gold. Like I don't want any turnovers. So understanding what Coach Pitino is looking for on offense for all of our guys is certainly an adjustment. Um, he really wants you to get rid of the ball as soon as it's time. You know what I mean? Like you drew the defense, you've done your job. You know, we have a couple of sets that we run a lot where it's like the first action is, somebody coming off the screen and then it's just immediate throw it, like get rid of it. Like we're not looking for you to see if you can make a play here off this screen. What we're looking for is the spacing over there. And you mentioned Talik, and I think that's really, really important. Like Talik is a guy who won a national championship on an elite team for a Hall of Fame coach
Mhm.
where everybody had to sacrifice, right? I guarantee you Talik could have scored more points in college if that was his focus. So he is really, really good. And Ricky Johns is as well. Ricky Johns was a great player. Um, so, you know, they're really, really good with sort of the mentality at that position. And not only their experience as elite players, but also now Ricky was more of a scorer. Let's not
Yeah.
get it, but he was a guard who played at a high level and understands what coach is looking for from the guards at that spot. So I think um, you know, the experience of the coaches helps with that. We have a pretty good understanding of the demands that Coach Pitino puts on his guards. Our players are going to have to get used to that, and that's what the summer is really, helpful for.
You brought up plays, so it just triggered in my brain another question. How much is the offensive play calls and perhaps defense, but I'm a little bit more focused on offense. How much is that going to potentially change given the personnel? I mean, is it just you guys have your base nucleus of plays that you want to teach and hammer home, or are things going to change this summer and, going to whip out the notebooks and the dry erase boards and, start drawing up tons of new stuff for the type of talent that is now on the team. Guys who are elite shooters like Joson Sanin, Osiah Sellers, Ian, who could shoot it at a 40% clip, Bryce, who can hit a three as well. We'll get to him in a second. But I'm just curious, how much the offense changes based on personnel versus some tried and true stuff that you guys like to work in over and over.
There's a little bit of both. There are some actions that, we've run since I've been with Coach and that, he really likes that will be consistent. One of the good things about the summer, and I think we did a good job of this last summer, we played a lot of 4-on-4
Mhm.
last summer and just got comfortable, let the players get comfortable with each other. And we got a good read of what we had. Like, wow, Davon Smith is really explosive, like you can't keep Kadari out of the paint. Aaron's really good on the weak side, step in threes, that kind of stuff. So there'll be a significant amount of change. I think we will look at our personnel and what we're really good at and what kind of combinations we may have on the floor. When you had Aaron Scott at the four, some of your stuff was second action for him, maybe coming off a flare screen or getting a pin down for a shot. Bryce Hopkins, while he's a capable shooter, maybe is a guy who's going to go downhill more. He's a guy you might post up more than Aaron Scott. And if he's playing the three or the four, we have to look at some actions for that. So it does change a significant amount with regard to our personnel because we have to look at, what our strengths are. And, we'll probably have better shooting in the backcourt. You'll probably see more stuff to get action for jump shots for them. So the summer is a good sort of test period for that, where we're putting in some stuff, but we're also evaluating the skills of our guys and what we need to do to score.